down rat, evil fly, circling shit a mile high. You don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas. Greedy slug, selfish prick, smiling wide, convinced you're slick. You don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas. Walking on the backs of the weak, your karma drives a dead-end street. It makes no difference to me. I'll let it go, I'll let it be. Corporate shill, religious twit, such a blatant hypocrite. You don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas. Evolution, forget that. Climate change, your wallet's fat. You don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas.
It is Beard Talk Live. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
I can hear you as well.
And that song requires dedication.
It does. I did, in the audio-only version, you'll hear me, before the song kicks in, say something to the effect of, this is dedicated to not only the jury, but also the feds in the Crypto 6 case.
Amen.
And so that's my dedication to them. That is a song from a band called Polka Dot Cadaver. And if it wasn't clear, the chorus was, you don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas.
Because they absolutely do not.
Not in any way, shape, or form. I'm fucking mad at the jury.
I'm
right?
disappointed in myself for allowing me to have a glimmer of hope that the United States federal government's system of justice could possibly ever give us justice.
Well, that I allowed myself to think that because we're in New Hampshire and it's the live free or die state, that somehow a jury would be more prone to not just taking government's word for things and actually reviewing the goddamn evidence, which I don't believe they fucking did.
Nice.
I don't believe they did at all. The trial itself ended, and they were excused to deliberate at approximately 3 p.m., and the next day at 1 p.m., they had a verdict. Now, so they stopped at 5 that first day, so they only had 2 hours. So that was probably enough time for them to discuss what their schedule was going to be for deliberations, elect the chairman, and possibly think about how they were going to go through the evidence for each charge as the judge instructed them to do.
Right.
So then the next day they come in, they probably got a free breakfast, they probably got free fucking coffee, that kind of a thing. And then they spent the morning doing something, Lord only knows what. It couldn't have been going through all of the fucking evidence, because if you wanted to go through all of the evidence for each of the 8 charges, it certainly would have taken you more than 4 fucking hours in the one morning. So then they went to fucking free lunch, right? And then they're like, you know what? Let's hang this fucking guy and get the fuck out of here so we can go Christmas shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So to you, the jury, you don't deserve a goddamn thing for Christmas.
Yeah.
You did not do your fucking job.
The thing that absolutely blows my mind about the jury selection was that they made sure no one knew anything about Bitcoin.
Well, like, to some extent, the defense could have, or, the attorneys could have brought, like, cryptocurrency expert teacher types to come in and attempt to educate the jury on how cryptocurrency works.
Oh, that.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, that's a hindsight thing, though, right? Guilty on all counts, right? So I'm pretty sure that there's nothing that could have been brought in, no expert testimony that would have convinced this jury otherwise. This was not convictions because the evidence overwhelmingly supported. There was tons of reasonable doubt all over each of the charges. And, I had no expectations, but guilty all across the board. That's just them going, no, he's an asshole. Fuck him. Besides, we got Christmas dinner to get to. Yeah. Fuck this guy in particular. Let's kick him in the balls and get our fucking Christmas on.
Well, so your incentives are absolutely perverse. So you are best served by doing this quickly. So you can quickly come to a yes or a no. And one of the questions, and you have to, and basically if you want this easy, it's got to be all yeses or all nos. Okay, what are we doing? Let's get this done with. Okay, well, one of the questions is, does he owe taxes? Now, I hate to say it, but there is a cruelty that gets seated in those who are abused. And everyone
yes.
and everyone who is a partial slave, because they say, oh, taxation is theft. Yeah, it's not untrue.
They do say that.
They say, oh, well, taxation is extortion. Well, that's not untrue either.
They say that too.
But taxation is slavery in part.
It is.
And
well, government
if you're a
is slavery.
1% slave, you're a slave.
Right.
And they've decided on something like 30%. So every single person who has ever had an untold amount of their human potential ripped out of their hands and put to God only knows what, probably murdering brown kids on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
Well,
for certain.
When you get hit and you see this guy's not getting hit, you want him to get hit. So, all right, well, because, is there anyone on earth that knows what the rules are for taxes?
Well, certainly the jury does not. And also they were showed, from within the legal system, it's a legitimate method for not paying taxes, right? Not only does the Shire Free Church organize itself in the structure in which it does, but every other church does too. The difference is that the Shire Free Church decided not to be a 501c3. And so, 501c3 doesn't apply to it. Outside of, but that's it. That's the legal workings. That's the mechanics of the laws that have been laid out, right? They went to full lengths to get a legal opinion on what they were doing with the Bitcoin vending machines in advance, right? They were made aware that there was an investigation, and they didn't run, they didn't hide, right? Nobody ever showed up at the door and knocked and was like, "Hey, we think you're doing this. Can you tell us how you're not?" Right? That would have been a good place to start.
Right.
Right. This show is the show before us, Free Talk Live. This is Beard Talk Live, by the way. Christmas Eve. What fucking year is it? 2022?
Not for long.
Yeah. So Free Talk Live has been on the air 20 fucking years, right? A couple of decades. It's not like it's going to stop tomorrow, right?
Right.
Somebody could have come by from any of these agencies. The IRS, right? They could have come by. They could have sent an actual letter, which they never did, right? To say, hey, we noticed you didn't file for this 4-year period. How come? Do you have a return? What up, right? They could have inquired, but they did not. Instead, they send what looks like a military fucking team of people into the studio to smash in the windows, to terrorize the tenants that pay rent here, the otherwise peaceful people, by the way, that live in this building, besides having the studio here.
Well, as George Washington pointed out, government is force.
It is.
Now, what you describe, you could have called in, sent a letter, that seems to be your way. Hell, you could have just gotten on Twitter, for fuck's sake, something. Oh, well, all of that sounds like talking. And the government ain't one for talking. That's not what they do.
Yeah, they don't like to use words.
Right.
To even solve a problem.
There is one solution that they seek with words, and that is, how are we going to keep these people under our reign? and they will talk to other world leaders about that. I mean, you can get in if you've got the $3,200 that it takes for a World Economic Forum banquet ticket. But otherwise,
But sorry,
Well, and-
had to throw some humor in there. I am genuinely upset.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
absolutely.
I
I was
and
inconsolable.
I'm not even sure. There was a restaurant across the street from the courthouse. I didn't dress for the courthouse that day. That is to say, I dressed normally, with like a belt with metal in it. I carried a knife in my pocket. I had keys on me, right? I was able to take my phone with me wherever I went, unlike when you go to federal court and you basically, it's almost like going through the TSA, really. You still got to go through a fucking machine. You got to have them x-ray all your shit. And you can't, they basically pantsed me twice. The first 2 days that I attended because I had to take off my belt, you know what I mean, and then put it back on after can. I'd like hold my pants up with one hand while I went through the little fucking dance monkey. That's right, I did the fucking monkey
Show your
dance.
obedience.
I did the fucking monkey dance.
Surrender
for these fuckers.
your life. Give us your phone, and we'll just leave it on the table. So the way I see this whole thing is just they pulled 13 chains because you don't have a choice about being on the jury. That's not how this works.
Well, technically, they pulled 16 chains.
Yeah, 13 mattered.
12.
Sorry, 12.
Yeah.
They pulled 12 chains and said, hey, should we put chains on this one?
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Sounds like a democracy, doesn't it? Like, the majority gets their way, gets to force the minority to their preference. Like,
seems to be what we've done throughout history, huh? Hey, that one's not human. We can do anything we want to him, right?
The lawyers for the prosecution, one of them was just like, I don't know, he just struck me as just like sort of a big Dumbo who's accidentally working for the state somehow. Maybe somebody called a favor in his dad or something. Was like, hey, give my kid a job. And somehow he became one of the prosecuting attorneys. I don't know. But he just like.
Sort of the Hunter Biden of the prosecution team.
I think so. And then the lady, wow, she's just got a control freak streak to her. And then the dude, the other dude who made the closing arguments he has no fucking life outside of the courtroom, right? He lives for the moment when he gets to give the closing argument because that's the biggest he is ever going to feel in his fucking life, right? That's how they struck me as personality types. The judge, I read his wiki and I was like, fuck. He's a sporto. He's a jock, right? He's a wrestling coach and he also referees boxing matches, right? So his personality was one of like a referee analyzing, a football game, right? You know what I mean? To him, he's watching a game and he gets to blow a whistle or throw a flag every now and again, make it feel like he's earning his money. But really, it's up to the jury. So what the fuck else is he going to do but listen and butt in every now and again and make some suggestions to the prosecution, right? He never made suggestions to the defense, right? But he was giving suggestions away to the prosecution.
Didn't they tell us growing up, the way our system is built, it is better that 1,000 guilty men go free than one innocent man be put in jail.
Jury never heard that fucking shit.
Sure don't fucking look like it.
The jury never heard that shit.
Yeah.
They never heard that phrase. I guarantee it. If they did, they didn't remember it. I hope none of them motherfuckers are religious. I really do. Because if they are, they've just screwed themselves. If this type of thing holds up where somebody can deem what is and isn't a real church, I thought we had separation of church and state.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So
But
the rules are
no.
actually
But apparently no.
the state gets to select whichever 13 people it feels are appropriate to make that decision there.
Yeah.
Like, is that really worshiping God? Well, we will determine who will determine that.
Oh, the government wants to be your God and tell you that you cannot be a thing unless you get their fucking permission.
Yeah. And to select an entire jury that does not own Bitcoin, Like, that was one of the requirements. Like,
yeah, why would you select that jury? If it's supposed to be a jury of your peers, shouldn't they be in your community?
Right. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed what with the half decade you've spent spying, but we think this is important. What with it being our only tool with which to wage peace.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a defining feature. Now, not everyone in my community has Bitcoin, but it's the wild majority, because that is peace. And my community is peace. We want to talk our problems out instead of jailing and murdering and stealing and tricking everyone.
It's obviously not popular to be to desire peaceful resolution.
Turns out.
To problems. Voluntary resolutions to problems.
Not popular. We took a vote.
Yeah. And I'm a little mad at myself too for having a moment of hope. Knowing what I know about how government operates, knowing what I know about how government feels about people who speak out against it.
Yeah.
To think that I had a moment of hope, I feel pretty shitty. But at the same time, like, human beings can't live without hope. You know, you need some of it. So I'm not kicking myself too hard. But
I don't know,
But
man.
shame on me for thinking that the state wasn't just going to railroad the fuck out of this case.
I don't know, man. Honestly, at this point, life is a vale of tears. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. You don't have to rely on life treating you fairly to approach it whatever way you decide to approach it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've been on the downside of what I thought was brilliant to point out as a sin of discouragement. And that's what despair is. It's a kind of discouragement.
Yeah.
And right there is where the solution is. The problem wasn't that this shouldn't be discouraging. The problem was that I didn't have the courage to go through it anyway. Like, yeah, it's a vale of tears. What are you going to do? Juggle?
Well, and the
or
message,
maybe try and bend some of it toward peace.
Definitely. The message that I would like to, because we know the feds are listening to Free Talk Live. If we're awesome enough for them to be listening to us too, sweet. Here's my message. You didn't stop Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You didn't stop it today. You're not going to stop it tomorrow. You're not going to stop it the next day, the next week, the next year. It is outside of your ability to stop.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, this is probably the biggest victory that they will ever have against it.
I actually think things, like, based on what I've seen now and how...
I'm not even saying this is the biggest victory they've ever had.
No.
I'm saying that moving forward, it just gets littler and littler.
No, it's going to get worse and worse. Like,
You think?
Oh, yeah. The state is not going to go quietly. They know
That's true.
They know cryptocurrency is a threat to the entire bureaucracy because they know the blockchain can do books better than they can, and they can be searchable and open to the public at any time. A service they are not willing to provide us. You cannot go get a report card on how the state is doing on any amount of data that you want at any time. That's not how government currently works.
Right.
You have to do a FOIA request, and then you get redacted bullshit, and you can't access some things, and some things you can only access if you're a member of the press, and they have all this fucking crap around it.
Well, see, what you're describing in the first place would be what's called providing good service in justice.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real simple principle that people don't skulk off to the shadows to start doing good things. That's just not how we're wired. No, the things that you are willing to be accountable for, you don't mind doing in daylight. So the fact that there are no recordings outside our esteemed colleagues of this ritual that we perform of punishment.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, that's a prime example. Like, they would not allow cell phones in the courtroom at all. No, that's not true. They allowed anybody who worked for the federal government to have cell phones, and I think
they allowed
the
first-class citizens to have cell phones.
The defense attorney was also allowed to have a cell phone and a laptop. But everybody else who was visiting, if you were for the defense, you had to get pantsed. You had to, strip down to, whatever until they were satisfied you had no metal on you. And then have everything else x-rayed. You could not bring in things like a pocket knife, a weapon, and if you did have a cell phone, they would take it from you and put it on a table where anybody who walks out could just grab any cell phone, including yours, and also do whatever the hell they wanted to with your cell phone while you're upstairs watching the thing go on. And I don't want they're already spying on us through our cell phones.
And
but
how much of your life is in that damn thing? I mean... How crippled are you when it breaks down?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, this unholy anti-church is a completely different jurisdiction, to use a figure of speech. Like, in this world, you get to, take pictures of people doing things.
Yeah.
Oh, different world now. No, this is in the inner sanctum. And then the jury will go away to the Holy of Holies, the most unseen place. Well, gee, seems to me like you wouldn't be having them skulk off to the shadows to do something nice.
Oh, the government doesn't do nice things.
Because that's the thing. It's all secrets and secrets, and every secret is another source of our power.
Like, what could even be misconstrued as government doing a nice thing? Food stamps, right?
Welfare.
Yeah. Like, we're doing this nice thing, right? Like
that word actually used to mean, like, it would fare wellness.
Right. Yeah. Government actually, by providing food stamps, disincentivizes you, the listener, you, the individual, from being charitable. You believe
it makes it impossible to be charitable.
You believe that by the existence of government and the existence of something that is called a food stamp program, you believe that you have done your part because you pay taxes and that program exists. You don't feel like you have to be directly charitable to people who are fucking hungry or homeless or whatever, right? Food stamps specifically. Let's just talk about hunger, right? So it's not until the government gets the fuck out of the way that actual charitable organizations can come in and do a much better fucking job at making sure hungry people get fucking fed.
And speaking of hunger, human beings, the ones who aren't sociopaths or aren't pretending to be sociopaths, hunger to do good to one another. We have a desire built into us that makes us feel what we see in other people. And if it makes us feel bad when we see it in other people, we crave helping them. And what government gives us is not food for that craving. No, they hand you cigarettes. Suppress that hunger. This'll help.
Being a formerly poor child, I'm familiar with the 5-pound block of government cheese. I've had it. It's not very good. I've also had
close enough for government work.
Government wouldn't give us milk, but they would give us this box of white powder. It wasn't cocaine. It was known as powdered milk.
I actually like powdered milk.
It was basically like white food coloring that you mixed with water, and it didn't taste anything like milk at all. It did help, like if you had a box of like mac and cheese, if you added like, I don't know, a half a cup of powdered milk to the mac and cheese, it really dialed it in. But that's just me making do with like the government welfare that, I was on at the time as a child. I wasn't personally on it. My mother was on it. So like, but that, government gave us food, literally, and it was awful, but it also disincentivized the rest of anybody in the family, really. Like, oh, she's on food stamps, so they're getting food, right? It disincentivized them from like, I should bring them some food, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if they care about their own family or whatever, like they would want to take care of them. And it wasn't like they didn't have the resources to do anything like that. They totally did. But once the knowledge was gained that, oh, food is taken care of, it disincentivized any more charitable contributions, even from the immediate Dunbar number, right?
Well, and I'm glad you bring up the Dunbar number there, because like what they are doing here is they are saying, we are chief of every tribe. We will be the provider patriarch of every social gathering, no matter how big or small. We will take that from you. You will not be allowed to help each other. You will be forced to give to us, and we will give to you. And wow, what an amazing way to extract the virtue from being charitable.
All right, so I didn't write this. I changed a couple of words to make it easier for me to read. Somebody else wrote this. If they want me to reveal who they are, they can let me know, but I'm just going to read this, and I'll stop along the way. There's like 4 things here. This is regarding the trial. This is regarding the outcome. Essentially, the state said that Bitcoin constitutes money and that sending it is a 3-party exchange. It isn't, and thus requires a license. So that's one of the things that, of course, appeals are going in.
So,
right? But because...
So every Amazon order better have a license to transmit money.
Can you imagine if they made...
Coming not from Amazon. Oh, no.
Can you
Coming
imagine,
from the buyer.
Yeah, can you imagine if they made everyone get a money transmitting license?
Yes.
To do Bitcoin?
Yes.
Like, you can't crypto unless you buy our license. Somehow
Honestly,
they enforce that?
So I'm still...
I don't think they can enforce that.
I am still and remain of the opinion they are never going to tell you what the rules are. Yeah. But if they were going to tell us what the rules are, I think it would be something like, well, are you an accredited investor? Now, what is an accredited investor, you might wonder, because that's not a thing for the rest of us.
Throwing fucking titles around.
Oh, it means you have $1 million.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it means. You have $1 million and you filled out all of our paperwork to become an accredited investor. And if they ever actually set a bunch of rules, I damn near guarantee you that will be the requirement for any trades in cryptocurrency.
I'm sure, like, we always like to talk about crypto here, so I'm sure we'll talk more about crypto. But they also basically ruled that the Shire Free Church isn't a real church, and therefore ministers are subject to tax on church proceeds. Now, the attorney for the defense pointed out eloquently that all of the necessary legal hoops to be a church were jumped through. The necessary paperwork was filed and signed. The necessary fees were paid according to the state of New Hampshire. And so, therefore, they're a legitimate New Hampshire church.
Well,
right? And other people were saying things like, well, churches have a place where you can gather. Well, we gather here. I'm sure everybody knows what a radio ministry is. I'm sure everybody knows what a televangelist is. So here's the pulpit, right? Y'all are the audience. Y'all are the congregation, if you will.
It's just that
here
our
on
church
the Church of Kick-Ass.
Our church not only allows but encourages anyone to take up the pulpit, because that's what we believe.
That's all I got here.
So I actually know. I know their reasoning for this one, and it's dastardly, but it makes a weird kind of sense. So they actually know that they're not allowed to determine what a church is and isn't. Like, that is literally way above their pay grade.
The jury?
No. The state.
Oh.
So the jury, they are supposedly the people. They're a sampling of the sovereign beings of this world.
Sure didn't act like it.
Yeah. Well, ain't that the shit? They get to pick who is and isn't the people that will apply for this particular exercise in justice. So they picked whichever people they wanted, and those people said, well, you owe taxes. Ipso facto, you ain't a church.
Yeah.
Clever. Diabolical.
They furthermore asserted that if somebody uses your, in this case, Bitcoin vending machine without your knowledge, and they happen to be a criminal, and you told them that you wouldn't sell them Bitcoin, you are still somehow liable for taking part in money laundering. That would be like saying somebody who uses a vending machine for, Cheetos, is involved in chip laundering.
I'm sorry, I had something crazy in my ear. Would you read that one again?
Yep.
Because it is literally unbelievable.
They furthermore asserted that if somebody uses your Bitcoin vending machine without your knowledge, they also happen to be a criminal, and you told them you won't sell them Bitcoin, you are still somehow liable for taking part in money laundering.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
mind-blowing,
wow.
dude. Mind-blowing. And then a bunch of really dangerous precedents if they fail in appeal. Hang on. Bunch of really dangerous precedents here if they fail in appeal. The current trial was before a jury, so the outcome isn't precedent, but the appeals will be. So, he was found guilty on all 8 counts. We've learned all of these things and kind of what, one person's opinion on what it means that I thought was pretty spot on. So I'm reading it to you here tonight. But so the appeals are going to go. Any of these things that stay, that the appeals process just says, nope, it's fine. These will now be precedents for further cases, for other cryptocurrency cases, for other tax cases, for other church cases. Right? Are you religious? I'm asking our listeners here. Are you religious? What is your religion? There's probably many of you listening who have many different religions. Why do you think only yours needs protecting? Here's a whole other religion that if your religion were in the sights of these particular goons, right, your church can now be ruled not a real church if this precedent sticks.
Yeah. And beware what you allow even to the worst among us, because it will happen to you.
Yeah.
And my God, like they're just not even hiding it anymore. Like whoever we decide to turn the eye of Sauron on, we will punish you. Absolutely. You interacted with someone and they did something bad. And since we decide to look at you, you are now guilty of what that person that you interacted with did. Now, never mind the fact everyone in their side of the aisle, every money transmitter, every ATM in the world, yeah, some of that is going to get used in crime.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, duh. Oh, but they will not have the eye of Sauron put upon them. They will not be dragged through court.
The other thing that really fucking bothers me about the whole trial, right? Like, if there's one like sort of sore thumb that sticks out to me from the whole damn thing, is that one of these old ladies, she was of retirement age, thereabouts. She was, she lost some money in this romance scam. She got scammed by somebody online telling her that he loved her. And she loved him and, sent a photo, and they were supposed to meet but never did. And this went on for years and years and years. So some of the money that she's given this scam artist, went through Bitcoin. And that's how she got tied to the case. But this particular guy she's had contact with up until like a week ago. Like as recently as a week ago. So, and the FBI admitted that there is no investigation into any of the scammers themselves. They were only interested in the guy selling the Bitcoin. Yeah. In shutting down a probably the last, really sort of criticism radio program of the government. Right? I don't know. There's lots of podcasts and things out there, lots of like liberty-oriented media, but as far as radio shows go, it is, to me, it's a bit of a canary in the coal mine. When it stops, like, that's going to mean a thing. You know? So
when there is no pulpit offered to the masses,
right?
Like, do you really want to see what happens when we are done talking? Because that scares the absolute shit out of me.
We're like the guy in the modern version of the guy in the town circle standing on the crate, town crier sort of guy,
And we're also the soapbox itself.
Yeah, so
because we don't just stand up here talking, we also bring you up to speak.
So my point is that this organization that's supposedly doing good in saving people from fraud isn't investigating any of the actual fraudsters.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Empty glass.
Yeah.
Why not? Why the fuck aren't they?
Because those fraudsters are not a threat to their power.
Right.
And they teach us that the court is a scale, right? That it's like, your fate hangs in the balance, and it is, it's this set of weighing and measuring, right? They teach us that's what this is.
Yeah.
No, the court is a gun. That is all.
Yep.
And if that gun were to be put to productive use, it would be aimed at the fucking criminals who are stealing, killing, destroying, robbing, murdering, genociding. That is who deserves a gun to be pointed at them. But that's not who's holding the handle.
Yeah, well, they have all the guns.
Yeah.
I mean, by way of comparison, yes, the United States citizenry has a whole bunch of guns, but by way of comparison, the U.S. military has far more.
The ones holding the handle are the criminals.
Oh, yeah.
And they have, by hook and by crook, convinced an entire world to believe that it's them actually holding the gun.
Well, because they think they're part of that. They think that they is we. And it is really disturbing that there are so many people who are warlike, who crave this, like, we win, haha, we're the best, we're the top, like, we're the most, blah, blah, we're the largest military. They're empirical. But I don't mean that in the statistician sort of definition. They want the empire. They desire the empire. They crave the empire because they're rooting for the empire. They're like, well, why should I care if we're an empire or not? We have the best quality of life in the world. So they don't care. They're happy being part of the empire. They want the empire to continue. And that is disturbing.
Well, and there's nothing that will make you long for complacency quite like scaring the hell out of you all the time.
One thing that this verdict and this entire case does, if there's anything resembling, something we can learn from this, that is that for certain, a whole bunch of alphabet agencies in the government are very concerned with some radio people who do an independent show from a little tiny town in Keene, New Hampshire that's critical of the government. They're fucking scared.
Yeah.
They're so scared they had to come after the founder, right? The guy's, I mean, it's been founded by two people, but like one of the two dudes, the main dude, it's kind of his show. They decide to come after him. They are fucking scared.
Yeah.
Confirmed. And, double signed, sealed, it's got like the old wax with the imprint in it and shit. Registered mail. The pews during the closing arguments on the prosecution side were full of feds or other government workers. I don't, maybe that happens at every fucking criminal trial. I don't know. At every federal trial. I don't know. I've never been to one before. This is my first federal trial that I've ever attended as a spectator. Didn't enjoy it. Don't recommend. I gave it a 0 out of 10 for the experience. I never want to step foot in that fucking building again. It feels creepy. It feels crazy. It's crazy in there. It's all very cathedral-like. It's set up to make you think that it is sacred, that it is a church. It mimics a church in so many fucking ways. I mean, government is a religion. We all know that. But like this building, I'm saying, is very church-like.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you step into the fucking thing, and what's there right after the metal detectors? Well, it's a giant piece of metal. A huge statue to the goddess of blindness.
Yeah.
We call her Justice. Like, that's what this is. This is a temple. It is a temple to their god, and their god is death.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. I mean, there's only two ways, man. There's a million variations on either. You know, there's as many different ways to life as people that could walk those paths. And for every one of us, there are an infinite number of ways to death. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, do we not kill each other, or do we kill each other?
I'm sure I'll have more to say on the subject. I have, endless feelings about it. I am very upset. There are, anyway, we'll get to that. But before we take this call, we should get this out of the way. The 7 words: shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. The reason we do that is because, well, this show is uncensored, and, well, fuck the FCC.
Fuck the FCC.
Let's go to the phones. Beard Talk Live. Who the fuck is this?
Hey, how's it going, Captain Kick-Ass? It's Bobby from Florida.
Hey, Bobby from Florida. What's on your mind?
Nothing. I've talked to you before, and I know you guys. I know Peakless Mountaineer. You know, I've enjoyed listening to you guys, and since you came on, Captain, I've always liked your humor, and I like that part of it. And when you bring that to it, I know some of the other hosts, sometimes they get, and I know we have a little bit. That's why I wanted to call the after show, because we can cuss now a little bit, and during the regular show, you got to keep it moving. So we can't really get into some of these things and talk about the hosting and all. But I think this is kind of what this is for, and then we can kind of get into our subject here that we're talking about and everything that's happened with Ian. Because I've been listening to the show now for since 2010. So I've been listening for I can't believe where the times have been. And I found it on back in the day. It used to be a thing called Radio Streaming Guide, and it had and it listed all the radio stations that were streaming, and that was like a lot of the radio stations weren't streaming at the time.
Right.
And so they were just starting to all get online. So it had them all. Anyways, Free Talk Live was on the menu, and I found it that way. Anyways, I've been listening for a while now.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's a great story.
Yeah, and so, and then anyways, I've been listening to you since you came on. And anyways, Mr. Penguin, I really enjoy him. And I've been listening to his commentary, and his write-ups on Free Keen have been fantastic about the
yeah, he did a great job. He took lots of notes during the whole entire thing, and he did a great job with that. I know that his notes were extensive, and everybody in the community has been very appreciative of his work that you can find over at freekeen.com.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that we had our own reporter, so it wasn't just, this is our word.
Yeah.
Take our word for it. This is everything that was said. We did also delete all the parts that we said delete that.
Yeah, we had a guy, Joa, from Breaking the Flaw on YouTube. He was doing sketch, artist sketches, because they don't allow cameras.
Right.
So, we kind of had, a mini crew of our own, so to speak, putting this stuff together, but in a very anarchic way.
Yeah.
In that nobody was assigned any of these tasks. Right? Everybody just said, I have a talent or a skill, and I'm going to go, or I want to observe this. And, in my case, I'm kind of living with people going through it, and I felt that I needed to go and see this. and to some extent be able to talk about it after or while it's going on. So here we are. Bobby, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's nice being in Keene, and then like an area like where you don't have any other people that will have your back. At least somewhere like there, that is nice that you guys could have like a little press, an actual press pool, if you want to call it that. That's what they call a professional. News corporations have press pools and stuff.
Well,
you guys have your own little press pool,
Absolutely right.
I'm pretty sure anybody who's listening to this program can just say, hey, I'm a reporter with Beard Talk Live. You can probably do the same with Free Talk Live. Just say, hey, I'm an independent field reporter working for Free Talk Live. You could go to a thing, visit a thing, have an opinion on a thing, and then call into the show and give us your fucking report. Like, anybody is free to do that, I think, with the way the organization is set up, and that's a great idea, Bobby.
Well, and one of the things is, like, it's not supposed to be this position that the state tells you who the media is.
Or who a church is.
Fucking point of having a freedom of press is that we don't have the king tell us who the reporters are. Who's the press? Everyone. All of us. I am. You are. The second we want to be.
Yep.
And to the extent that anyone wants to listen. And God, we can't even get that shit straight. How are we supposed to reach the point where, well, who's the monarch? Well, all of us. Man, how are we even supposed to get there if we're not willing to pick up the reins of being the media?
Like 300 million monarchs.
Yeah. Yeah, 330 million monarchs in the United States area.
King of yourself, or as I like to say, captain of yourself. Be the captain of yourself. If no other words to anybody listening it ever gets understood or taken to heart or memorized or heard way too many times, it should be this: be the captain of yourself.
And the fact is, that's why we deposed a monarch. Do you have any idea how hard it is to depose a monarch? And we couldn't do it throughout the world. No, we couldn't free Australia. Sorry, guys. We couldn't free Canada. We tried. But hell, we didn't barely get free ourselves. And only just this little bit. But we deposed a fucking monarch. Why did we do that? Because I am my monarchy. You are your monarchy. And I know it's hard to think like that because I'm not subjugating anyone. You're not subjugating anyone. We are monarchs without subjects. But what a beautiful idea.
I'm driving with you guys. Yeah, I'm driving with you. You know what else I found really neat was if anybody wants to go read those 3 Keene articles, about the trial and everything, it's totally uncensored and anybody can post their comments freely. You guys have been censoring. There's been a lot of dickhead comments on there that seem totally fake, like making stuff up. And I mean, you guys don't delete them. And, there's obviously some people that just, and every activism group, there's going to be authorities that don't like you. So, of course, there's people that don't like the organization going against the monarch, as Peakless was saying. So, of course, you're going to have people in there that are just they're happy and they're rejoicing and they're just sick people, But I'm really I was really after the restraint that you guys have had, or I don't know if you guys moderate it. I know Mr. Penguin does, but the restraint that they've had moderating it, I think, is pretty wild. And what's been allowed to make your comments like you want to, and even if they're very derogatory and even made up.
Yeah. Well, the freedom to speak is the freedom to say stupid shit that no one wants to hear.
Think about this. If your government was actually about freedom, then every government web page, not just site, page that exists, would have a comment section that was completely unregulated.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But they don't.
Oh, they're not. They don't do that. No,
No.
heck no.
Oh, no.
Well, and the thing is, I'm sorry, we don't have but the two choices. Either we can figure this out with talking, or it's going to come to blows sooner or later. And later might be 1,000 years, it might be tomorrow, but we could just not have it ever come to blows. But there's a price, and the price of it not coming to blows is A, things that you do not want to hear, and B, having to work through garbage ideas. Sometimes we have to go through garbage ideas, and when we're really good at it, we make fun of them, and they just evaporate.
I think society could evolve way faster, sans the barbaric and ancient institution known as government. There's 200 of them around the world. There's 0 square feet of land, island, and even water to a large extent that are not claimed by these 200 entities. There is nowhere that people who want to just interact on an individual basis, according to their agreements, there's nowhere for people like us. Bobby?
Yeah, and so kind of in my closing here, I really think we'll find out a little in the next couple months here. I think Free Talk Live will still keep going, and I'll still be here and enjoy listening and keep listening to you guys. Keep trying to get out the word of liberty and keep trying to keep talking, because that's all we can, guys. So we got to keep doing that right now. All we can do is just try to keep the conversation going, and I think that's I know people are getting very worried, but we just got to keep trying, because the truth and the right way, like you were talking about, people will prevail. And I thank you guys for the Beer Talk Live, and you guys have a good night, and God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, Bobby.
Appreciate
you. Thank you for the call. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number. We're here until about 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll only take one break. So there you have it. That's the format that we've sort of been doing. We never really decided how to do the format. It just sort of evolved. And so, well, maybe we'll change it later. Maybe we won't. Who knows?
Well, and it turns out, like just the way people are, spontaneous order emerges every time you quit stopping it from happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how we are. Like, have a bunch of hippies sit down in some grass, and they will start weaving baskets just because they're playing with grass. Like, that's just what people do. I mean, no one told Joe to make those pictures.
Right.
No one told Chris to write it down.
Right.
No, that's just, if you get your boot off our neck, we will give you prosperity and invention like you've never imagined or dreamt.
And you know as well as I do that if cameras were allowed, just cell phones, right? Screw anything else, right? Right? Who's going to bring in just a camera anymore, right? It's 2022. Most everybody's still got the cell phone, and that's kind of where, the cell phone has reduced many, many things that used to take up rooms into a handheld device. So if there were cell phones allowed in there, there would be so much footage of the entire trial, just from the liberty community alone. And the fact that they don't allow that should tell you how fucking scared they are.
That's very true.
They don't want us to show you the naked truth of the trial and how the proceedings went and how the prosecution went. They don't want you to hear their words, their process, their procedure, which they didn't choose to follow, or like they were making choices that don't make sense. Motions were made that were just sort of ignored. And I was under the impression, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but I was under the impression that a motion needed to be ruled on, that there was a timer on it.
Yes.
But the court just was like, yep, they're under consideration, or under advisement, I think was the language used. And then the trial continued.
I'm a table that issue.
No, but yes, right? Like, the action was tabling it and just ignoring it, but like the verbiage was some other thing that probably allows it to just sit in legal limbo until after he's convicted, and now it doesn't matter.
Well, and I think the biggest reason that they do not want any of this ever to be taped, both audio and visual, is because you'll figure it out. You will see, oh, here is the combination of special words and whatever else.
You will
that
see
I
the
need
true
to do.
ugliness of mankind.
Like, number one, we'll see, oh, well, this isn't justice. So they will lose that power. They won't be able to bullshit us about, oh, well, this is justice. It's beyond the black veil of the robe of the judge and the... Yeah, no, it's this. And you go, oh, that's awful. So number one, they don't want you losing faith in their right. And number two, they don't want you figuring it out. Because if they run you through this, they don't want you to know whatever, like, oh, well, if I stand like this, and if I say this, well, then it turns out that 79% of that works.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is our beaten stick. And when we decide to hit you with it, we don't want you running out of the way.
There were a number, I don't know what the number is, 50, 60 people who did show up on, they designated one day for sort of the protest day. And a bunch of people showed up, a bunch of people who love freedom. I call them the freedom community at large. I know you showed up as well. And the support was good to see.
Yeah.
There was some press that came out of this. Some stuff still being worked on that hasn't been released yet. There's at least one documentary movie being made. And there were interviews from... I think the largest organization was probably NBC Boston. I don't know if those have aired, will air. I have no idea what'll happen there. But, like, press was there. Not a lot. Could have been more.
I expected more, honestly. Like, I don't know. A lot of people don't think the way I do, but I look at this and I'm like, oh, man, the ripples from this decision are going to be felt for a long time.
Yeah, especially if they remain as precedent.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, this is a precedent-setting case on a new technology that, I mean, I get that the world hasn't figured this out yet, but it is the most important thing happening ever.
It kind of is.
Like,
it is. It's the reinvention of how humans express value.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a new language.
Yes. There is a universal language of value.
Yeah, it's mathematics, so it's reliable. You can, when it breaks, you can figure out where. But I mean, as far as code is concerned, and it can be built upon and improved upon. So imagine this: a dollar bill, right? Every now and again, every decade or so, they'll do something with it. They'll add a feature or change a design element or something like that, and you're like, oh, remember the old dollars? And the old ones will be collector's items. I remember when they put the little tiny strip inside of the dollar bills, right? That went from top to bottom instead of across or whatever. That used to not be a thing. So every now and again, they'll add something to a physical dollar that you might refer to as a feature. Right? But when's the last time an innovation was made on the dollar?
Right.
Like never. Like it's kind of been outside of the ink and the design changing. It's pretty much been the same for fucking ever.
Yep.
Right. Outside of when it changed. Well, it changed form for when you used to be able to redeem it, like the silver certificates, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, this hasn't happened since the Crusades, guys.
Yeah. So,
like in the Crusades, we went, oh, well, if I write this on paper, then I can just have money when I get there. Whoa.
Yeah.
But like, and that changed the world. Well, like the power structure that exists now exists because of that innovation.
Yeah.
And this is so much bigger. I mean, like, yes, I get we're in a global market right now. I know. But every single tiny little movement of everything is just friction all the time. I mean, it's just nails on a chalkboard. throughout the planet. It's just grinding because every last little one wants their cut, wants their piece. And this is a rock being thrown through the void of space.
Yeah.
Just frictionless. It's never going to stop. Like the transformation that this is making.
It is earth changing. Like it really is. And I mean, the evidence is there just because people from, well, all over the world have gotten into it. So it's not, when's the last time, like, I equate this to like the Wright brothers inventing flight.
Yeah.
That's what I equate cryptocurrency to, Bitcoin specifically, Satoshi Nakamoto in his original white paper.
Yeah.
That moment in time,
Couple of dudes in their garage, man.
I see as like the Wright brothers going, how do we put wings on this go-kart, man?
Right.
You know, like that's how important and how life-changing the technology is, and it's so early. Like from the time the Wright brothers figured out how to actually fly until there were like commercial jets and shit, right? Well, it took a while. Took a little bit to progress to get there, but it was a tsunami of innovation because as soon as it was discovered, people were like, oh, we've got all sorts of imaginative ideas on how to use this and how to improve things and how to make it more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
How big of an impact will cryptocurrency have on humanity? Well, we can go and look at the next closest thing to Bitcoin, which is dual entry ledgers.
Right.
Right. When that was invented.
Like, well, and it's like, think of when we first figured out ledgers. Wait, I have 12 sheep. I will write down 12 sheep. And that changed the world. Well, now I can do math and I can find out, well, it took me this many bales to feed this many sheep. That was single entry. Then we figured out double entry. And yeah, that absolutely changed the world.
This is Wikipedia, just, so we have a basis of what we're talking about. Double entry bookkeeping, also known as double entry accounting, is a method of bookkeeping that relies on two-sided accounting entry to maintain financial information. Every entry to an account requires a corresponding and opposite entry to a different account. The double entry system has two equal corresponding sides known as debit and credit. A transaction in double entry bookkeeping always affects at least two accounts, always includes at least one debit and one credit, and always has total debts and total credits that are equal. The purpose of double entry bookkeeping is to allow the detection of financial errors and fraud. So this is Bitcoin's cousin, right?
Well,
their older cousin, the older, more retarded cousin, right? It's got like a learning disability compared to Bitcoin.
Oh, I think of it more as Bitcoin's boomer dad.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's an accurate analogy. For example, if a business takes out a bank loan for $10,000, recording the transaction would require a debit of $10,000 to an asset account called cash, as well as a credit of $10,000 to a liability account called notes payable. So, they go on to talk about it. But this was an invention that changed mankind. Mm-hmm. Once they figured out how to do this, everything became far more efficient than it was previously.
Yep.
Now, if you look at that as an innovation, and it doesn't really go into the grandioseness of it on Wikipedia, but this had a huge effect on mankind as far as the delivering of goods and warehousing and accounting and all these sorts of things.
Yeah, like Egypt and the Phoenicians and like the Greeks.
Yeah. It was an industrial renaissance, if you will. Like all of a sudden, everybody that made stuff was able to make it faster, cheaper, ship it, right? Like faster, cheaper, and more, all that kind of stuff. So that's just an example of what that did.
Yeah.
What is cryptocurrency going to do? This technology that can not only do all of that, but can also act as a trustless intermediary for your value transactions, for your sales. When I want to sell you something, you want to sell me something, it can do that too. In fact, it can do everything your bank can do. It's one of the things that gets said a lot is like cryptocurrency can be a bank on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't yet. They haven't developed the GUI for it, right? The graphic user interface, the app, right? It hasn't so far. It hasn't become where you have all of the features of a bank on your phone, but it's coming.
Right.
The amount of development.
There's no web browser on this yet.
Right.
Well, funny I should say it that way. There is actually a literal web browser that is built on blockchain technology, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about, okay, well, we got the computers to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And we are currently working on the web browser.
Yeah. So if the internet came out, right? There's a lot of folks listening probably older than the internet. I know I am.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a time before the internet. BI, as I like to refer to it. In the year 20 BI, or I guess, in the year 1982 BI. Before internet. So I know what life is like without the internet. I had a point, now I lost it. I got too hung up on BI.
It has changed things so fundamentally, and its changes have reached into every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's about to happen again.
I remember what I was going to say. It was the internet comes out, and it was what? A couple of bulletin boards? Right, at first. Then maybe it evolved into some IRC chat rooms and some forums, right? But largely websites were discombobulated, and, there was this messy kind of a time during the internet. And then email was invented. To me, email was the killer app of the internet that made businesses all go, yep, we got to have that. That's instant communication between departments, regardless of distance. Yep, got to have that. It's official and you can address it to people. Yep, got to have that. That was the killer app, in my opinion, was email.
Right.
We don't have, we do have the killer app on the blockchain, and that's cryptocurrency, but it's just the first.
Yeah. It's just the first.
It's just the first. And also, there can be killer apps on Bitcoin. Right? So you can build a thing on Bitcoin for Bitcoin because you can have features.
Yeah.
You can have fucking features. Imagine one Satoshi of a Bitcoin that has a PDF document on it that you signed and I signed saying that we co-own a plot of land in Scotland somewhere. And whenever that particular Satoshi changes hands to another person, that acts as the sale of that thing.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that with $1.
Right.
You can't do that with a CBDC. Right?
Would you like a receipt? Well, too bad, because there's a receipt on millions of computers.
Bam.
Maybe billions.
Yeah. Now
it will never, ever go away. Like, holy crap, do you know how much this is going to free up?
Just imagine this. We know from experience and from, some reading that history is written by the winner, at least up until now. But humanity can record all of its own shit now. It doesn't need to rely on a government to record it for them. So think about how much more accurate history is going to be going forward. Now that it can all be, anyone can be a historian now. Anyone can upload their experiences, their time and date, whenever it happened, and anyone can browse that information without censorship, without anybody saying, oh, nope, this isn't for your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually
think of the historical impact. Think about 50 years from now when people go and look back at the last 50 years of history and they're able to see it accurately instead of written by the government with the largest military.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be you win and then you write the history. Now it's no, everyone writes the history.
And then we win.
And then we win. And that's like, it blew my little socks off my feet to be asked, well, do you think that's it for Bitcoin? It's like, okay, let me get you up to speed on this. So Ford just arrested the Wright brothers for tax evasion.
Yeah.
And you are asking me if you think this is it for artificially powered flight.
Excellent analogy. Yes.
No, I don't think this is it.
No, not by a long
Like,
shot, no.
there's literally two options here: radioactive vapor and the expansion of the time chain. Because that's what this is. This is a time chain.
Yeah.
Like, the most amazing part about it, it only goes one way.
Yep.
It just moves forward.
Get this. Think about how much money governments all around the globe have spent on data storage facilities, right? Buildings with, magnetic disks and data storage devices and cooling towers and systems, and they got to pay people money to maintain all that shit just so that they have enough storage for all of the data that they're collecting. They don't need to do any of that because that can all be stored on the blockchain.
Yeah.
And distributed evenly amongst all of the network.
Well, and the best thing about it, so when they're gathering all the data, you think they only tell the truth?
Right.
I'm sorry, that's not how humans are built.
Right.
There's a percentage of humanity that is deceptive. And I mean that in both senses. There's some people that are deceptive people, and there's a part of you that is deceptive.
Well, there's entire organizations known as governments whose entire job it is to lie, steal, and murder you.
So when they're the ones keeping all the books, well, then you are relying on their facts. And that's over. That's done.
Yeah, look,
we will never go back to that system.
I'll
there
even
will
admit,
never be registering ever again.
I'll even admit that for a period of time in human history, monolithic registries were necessary for humankind to evolve. We needed a place of record, right? A library could have served as that without being like a government-sponsored entity, but the government ended up being, we'll just record everything, because then, from that they get to rape you for license fees. Right. It's not officially on record because you didn't pay the fee, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll admit, for a period of time, having these monolithic structures was necessary for humankind to evolve. That time is over.
Yeah.
Thank you, blockchain.
Yeah.
How quickly the technology develops on this thing, I don't know. And I don't really care. It's here, and its potential is enormous. It has barely scratched the surface.
And this was their excuse for having all of the power.
Yep.
Oh, well, look at our services that we provide so very well, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We can just go ahead and provide all of those services out in the open where everyone can see it. And we just don't need you genocidal maniacs at the helm of civilization anymore. Because really, what seems to have happened is that people were just so nervous about each other and just so worried. Well, what if we need to bash some skulls in? How are we going to organize our skull bashing? So we've just felt this anal retentive requirement of having this gang make sure that everyone is doing the same thing all the time.
There shouldn't be any gang that makes sure that humans do that. In fact, the opposite of that should be true. People should be trying to make sure that everybody's not doing the same thing all at the same time. Like individuality is where real creative shit comes from.
Yeah.
It comes from being different from everyone else.
Yeah.
In whatever way suits you or is unique to you, your talents and your abilities. How do you get there? How did you achieve? How are you different? Well, everybody's you know the best. I'm not going to be able to tell you what you're best at. You know what you're best at. Figure that out. Use it to your advantage, and live your life that way. It's not really that hard to figure out. And, oh, guess what? In order for you to maintain that level of autonomy, you must also allow other people to maintain that level of autonomy.
Yeah.
And if you do, you get prosperity.
Yeah. If you just let people feed you, they're happy to do it because it feeds them too. If you will just get your goose-stepping jackboots off our throat, we will show you marvels that cannot yet be imagined.
Well, I don't want to make it out like
No, that is
we're not the wizards, just to be clear.
We're two of them.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not developing on the blockchain. I don't write code. I'm not, an engineer, that kind of a thing. I'm a fan of the technology for sure because it is life-changing.
Well, so here's the thing. If you think of every great work of beauty that any artist has ever made throughout time, they all have one thing in common. No one else ever did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were all different.
Yeah.
Unique, individual.
I'm a fan, and I know that there was a group of people loosely referred to as the cypherpunks, right? Who?
There still are.
Okay, but specifically surrounding the creation of Bitcoin.
Oh yeah,
they're
still out there, man.
Post 2008. My theory is that that's where Bitcoin came from. It came from those anonymous dudes known as the cypherpunks, or people associated with them who were just these brilliant mathematicians, and they saw what happened in around 2008, the financial collapse and the bank bailouts and all that shit, and they thought it was bullshit. And they were like, okay, you know what? We're gonna release this thing into the wild, and because we know that it's dangerous, we're not gonna put a name on it so that we don't get the treatment that the Free Talk Live studio got, Ian Freeman got, and the Shire Free Church got, and that is a military style raid.
Yeah.
Looking at years in prison for what? For
a lifetime.
For
looking at a lifetime. I mean,
for allowing
to steal years is inexcusable.
Yeah, for allowing people to freely transact the way they want to.
To steal a lifetime is unimaginable.
Well, fortunately, I know Mr. Freeman pretty well, and his lifetime has meaning.
Yeah.
Already.
Amen.
And I don't think it'll stop just because, they're gonna have he's gonna be their slave for a minute.
Yeah.
Pending appeal. But even so, they've got him on house arrest type stuff, so he's already.
Well, and I mean, none of us would be here if it weren't for the people who just didn't ask for permission.
Yep. 100%. A thing that comes up frequently is, I'll simplify it with the whole if you don't like it, why don't you leave? Well, because there's nowhere else to go. Right? I mean, there are other places that I could go. If I'm only concerned about myself, I could certainly go find a place where I could live out the rest of my life with freedom in the way that I saw it. But only if I'm only concerned with myself.
Yeah.
I'm not here for my own good. I don't do this for my own good. I do this because I feel like somebody needs to be shouting this shit from the rooftops.
Yeah.
I feel like, hey everybody, I found this great thing. It's gonna change your fucking life. It's peaceful. It's voluntary. There's no violence involved. And in fact, it has the potential to destroy entire bureaucracies just by existing.
Yeah.
And it never asked for permission.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about it, I'm a big history buff.
Yeah.
I love learning about history. Man, I have no idea how many factoids are running around this brain of mine, but I can't think of a single time in history that we had a technology that explicitly rewards peace and can only reward peace.
It's a good point. It's a great point.
Yeah. So now that those Wright brothers are arrested, do you think that's it for Bitcoin?
No. And it's so laughable.
And before we head off to our break,
we got a few minutes.
I want to have a moment of I am Spartacusness here. That I mean, as you were pointing out, like they're and if you look at the cypherpunks and their correspondences, like you can see the footprints of this thing.
Yeah.
Where we had eCash and it did this, and we had this and it did this, and we like, here's the problem with that. Oh, well, let's try this, and we evolved a technology.
Yeah.
It unfolded itself.
Yeah.
And no, here's the problem with that. Oh, well, shoot, how are we going to get around this problem? And it just got a little better and a little better and a little better. And then it hit this threshold.
Yeah.
And it just, it was tiptoeing 1 millimeter at a time forward. And suddenly we're on the moon.
And all of the people working on this were arguably, in many different locations. Right. And I mean, like, continents away. Right. I mean, who knows? Maybe they were sitting right next door to each other and didn't know it. But like, arguably, the ability to interact online across great distances is what made this possible, because for the first time, people who didn't care about the fucking rules were able to get together and work on an invention.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that strikes me is, so it seems like so much of what we say does fall on deaf ears, but it doesn't, because every single time that we pointed out the bullshit in our currency system, it built a little bit on the possibility that eventually, one day, someone would actually be honest about the housing market.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not going to happen.
No. It did. It did at one moment, and that's why everything blew up in 2008, is that for one moment, we shined a light onto what was actually happening behind these closed doors of money jargon and highfalutin, priests of their system, accredited investors. No, for one little moment, we shined a light on what was happening and went, oh, there's literally nothing there. It's Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
And because that happened, that inspired some people, including whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, to create this thing, to put in the sweat and blood and tears to make this real.
Dear Bitcoin developers and all cryptocurrency developers, it seems to me that the market is demanding more privacy features.
Yeah.
Can you bump that up on your list of development schedule, please?
Well, and to
it should be default. Like, if you can make it to where every cryptocurrency has privacy built in as a default, why, that'd be great.
Well, it seems we have a chance to correct what I believe was an error when we created the World Wide Web.
Mm-hmm.
We could have pretty easily turned everything into encryption by default, but we didn't.
Right, yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and fix that.
Yeah, let's fix that too.
Because we're
great.
making it,
yeah.
Well, it'd be nice to go back and fix that, which we might get around to.
Maybe.
But we're making a new thing that is very much like the internet. So let's go ahead and not take that pitfall.
Yeah.
Because we're at that moment where we are developing, there's not even a web page yet. There's no such thing as a web page on this internet.
That's true. Yeah.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this amazing, life-changing technology that is really just, it's an infant, man.
Yeah.
Beard Talk Live, who the fuck is this?
Hello?
Hello. Who the fuck is this?
Oh, hi. It's who am I tonight? Let's do Frank. I'll be Frank tonight.
Let's be Frank tonight.
Let's be Frank tonight. All right, Frank, where are you calling from?
Texas.
All right. Do you have time?
What is it? It's 11:58. It's 7.
Yes.
Yes, I have time.
We normally take a break in about a minute. So do you wanna hang out on hold and come back to us in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually like far behind. I don't know what you guys have been talking about for the last hour. I'm catching up, but
No worries.
I'll hang on.
All right, stand by. All right, we're gonna do a quick 10-minute.
I would like to take this moment to utter one of the last of 2022 preemptive Merry Christmases. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Oh, well done. I'm going to dedicate the break. We'll call it a 9-minute break. We got to be on our shit. I'm going to call it a 9-minute break, but I want to dedicate it to, well, all of 2020, let's say, and 2021. Lies you told me, the lockdowns are dumb. 2 weeks or maybe 3, the lockdowns are dumb. The protest signs we bring, the lockdowns are dumb. Not taking your vaccine, the lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. So we're warning him, the lockdowns are dumb. Here we come. Pretty crazy, the lockdowns are dumb. We're getting more poor too, the lockdowns are dumb. You need to lift this thing, the lockdowns are dumb. You, sir, are not a king, the lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. We will ignore you, the lockdowns are dumb. Very dumb. Poked and prodded, the lockdowns are dumb. You keep increasing time, the lockdowns are dumb. Banks will foreclose on him, the lockdowns are dumb. The outlook seems quite grim, the lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. Lockdowns are dumb. You won't violate me, the lockdowns are dumb. Really dumb. Be the lion, not a little lamb. Don't they seem like Nazis? They seem like Nazis. We will not comply, understand. Don't they seem like Nazis? They seem like Nazis. Feathers and tar, warning you tonight. We're prepared to bring you a fight. We're prepared to bring you a fight. Growing fear what I fear? Do you fear what I fear? Businesses throughout are destroyed. Do you fear what I fear? Do you fear what I fear? It's all gone wrong. Tanked economy, you're destroying our liberty. You're destroying our liberty. We've a governor thinking that he's king. He still hides from us though. He still hides from us though. Come and face us, almighty king. He still hides from us though. He still hides from us though. Your centralized system has grown old. We'll transact in Bitcoin and gold. We'll transact in crypto and gold. Say these words now, people everywhere. I refuse to obey. I refuse to obey. Repeat these words, people everywhere. I refuse to obey. I refuse to obey. 'Cause everyone sleeps somewhere at night. We're prepared to bring you a fight. We're prepared to bring you a fight. Have yourself a sterile little Christmas under UV light, disinfecting every little thing inside. Have yourself a sterile little Christmas. Antiseptic spray. From now on, your families shall be kept away. Outlawed are all the olden days, bleached out holidays, hardcore. Precious friends who are dear to us can be near to us no more. Baseless fears won't let you get together. Even a small crowd. Infrared thermometers point at your brow. And have yourself a sterile little Christmas now. Mandates killed all the olden ways, stripped down holidays, abhorred. Governments should be fearing us. They're not hearing us anymore. Dangerous, the family get together. States will not allow hanging politicians from the highest bough, and have yourself a sterile little Christmas now. It's Beard Talk Live. We're back. Break's over. Here we are. We're here. This is where we are. Hang on. Let's bring Frank. Are you still fucking there?
I'm still fucking here.
I thought it was
All right.
Bobby.
Oh no, didn't. That was the other
how about
guy.
Frankie Bobby? Oh.
That was the other guy. This is Frank now, right, Frank?
Oh, right. We
Yeah.
got to be Frank.
Yeah, we had to be Frank.
Gotta be Frank.
Yeah. Well, we had to wait to be Frank. We asked if we could be Frank, and Frank was like, sure. And then we were like, it's going to take us about 9 minutes. And so we took our 9 minutes, and now we can be Frank with Frank on Beard Talk
Well,
Live.
let's be frank, for
Frankly,
sure.
I don't
All
give
right,
a damn.
but before you go, Frank, I just want to tell the folks who are listening the 3 songs during the break that were heard on the live stream and will be heard on the podcast are called COVID Carols. You can find those over at CaptainKickass.com. Follow the link for the Kickass Parody Project, and it'll get you there. It was something Ian Freeman challenged me to do during the winter of COVID, the first winter of COVID, was like, hey, man, you do parody songs, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can you do, like, some COVID carols? Here's some lyrics. Like, somebody else did lyrics for Christmas songs that were the chronic carols for, like, the weed protests back in the day. And he was like, do you think we could do, like, COVID carols? I'm like, I don't know. Let me try. And this is what happened. So that's what you get to hear. I figured it's fucking Christmas, right?
It's fucking
What
Christmas.
other time can I ever possibly play the COVID carols that would be more appropriate
Absolutely.
than tonight?
No,
So-
I love the COVID carols. I was amazed to find out that there's this whole little sheet of all these lovely lyrics. If only I had not been terrorized with becoming an alleged terrorist, maybe I would have arranged some COVID caroling.
All right, so I'm not sure, but I think Frank, the caller, had something to talk about.
Yeah. So I want to respond to something earlier on. Like I said, I'm just catching up, so like I missed like the last hour, but something you were talking about with regards to the trial, and they were trying to define what a church is.
Yeah.
So I am a Christian anarchist.
Okay.
And
Right on.
I gotta say, it's I got it coming from both sides. It sucks because I mean, like, you guys are like rabid atheists. I really appreciate a lot of the perspectives from your clan side, but
Your what
I mean,
side?
like, there's
Your what side?
whatever. Your clan.
My clan. I'm not in the clan. Just to be clear.
No, I know.
Oh no, that just makes me think of Scotsman, and I do feel a little bit like a Highlander being up here.
I don't mean to be clanning around.
We literally
Well,
ran to the
guys-
hills. So
It is Beard Talk Live after all, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
do you have a beard, Frank? Do you have a beard?
Oh,
damn
it's
it.
more of a sine wave.
All right.
a sine wave.
Frank, did we ask you where you were calling from?
Actually, no. I would say it's a sawtooth wave.
Okay, that's fine. Did we ask where you were calling from?
Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right,
Land of Southern Baptist churches mostly.
yeah.
I find frustrating.
I revised my religious stance to agnostic. I still kind of feel like I lean atheist as far as traditional religions are concerned. However, I think that while religions have done some really horrible things, like there is purpose in people who believe similar things getting together.
Well, I am a Gnostic atheist as far as institutions go.
Yeah.
I am absolutely certain that there is no God there. I have seen what those things are.
Yeah.
That's not the author of life.
Right.
That ain't
What do you
it.
mean those things?
Churches that, like, as we tend to think of it, like, okay, so for example, there's one church that I know is actually still a state. The Catholic Church still like literally runs its own little country in Vatican City.
Yep.
So like they are weirdly enough a monarchy. Every time that you identify yourself with using force to change the world, it
That would be the
corrupts your
state.
soul and causes people to die. That's just what happens when that's what you do with your
Absolutely.
power.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
and to that extent, that's sort of what organized religions seem to do, at least. No offense to the caller, but on the Christian side, that's kind of where I come from. Like they're literally there to like scare you into believing that if you do wrong, you will burn in hell and that kind of a thing. So it's not force in as much as it's scare tactics, right? It's fear of a boogeyman, right? It's a little bit of it's a mental trick, really, to get you to be scared enough to believe the story, to give money when you sit down and visit the magic building.
Well, the damnable shame of it is that they use the best part of you to do something evil. Like, that is just really beyond the pale. Because people, when they, like, make a choice and choose to go to church, they are trying to do good in the world. Like, that's everyone that I have known that, I mean, there's plenty of people that show up at church that never actually sat down to think about it, never decided for themselves that that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But of the people that I know that actually bother to do it as a choice, they're trying to do good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that's why I don't like totally knock religion at all, is because it's a noble intent. Right? Folks, generally speaking, if they are of a religion, it's because they have noble intent. They want to be better. They want to learn, a way. They want to be around people who believe sort of the same thing that they do when it comes to that kind of thing. So there's value in that. But I mean, too many people don't realize, like, hey, the money that I put in that plate every week went to build the new church that we're all sitting in right now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I find that most frustrating. Where I'll double back a little bit. So most times when people they say they make claims like more people have died in the prospects of the religious efforts or whatever, right? Like, more people have died because of religious conflicts or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
The thing is that maybe that's not necessarily true. It is kind of in a way, but it's that when the church merges itself with the state, it becomes a mode of violence because the state has the monopoly on violence, right? So
Because it's merged itself with violence.
Exactly, right. So religion itself isn't violent. It's when it merges itself with the state.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's what is the state doing?
Yeah,
if the
exactly.
state is doing religion, well, then you're going to see religious wars and religious genocides and religious oppression. And when the state is not doing religion, you will see irreligious oppression and murder and destruction and genocide.
Yeah, but I look at it differently. In short, it's the religion doing the state. The state itself, though, because we've uncoupled ourselves with the source of authority previously to United States, as we call it, authority was granted by God or some deity, a religious deity.
And
prior to a constitutional
I like to
government.
be able to look at it from both angles, because for myself, I am thoroughly aware that there is an intelligence that is guiding life in existence, But I
Well,
also like
what-
to be able to look at it and say, okay, it comes from God is one way of saying this idea. But this idea can also be said in self-ownership. Like, I own myself. I own the effects. I am responsible. Like, responsibility itself also brings you to that same source of legitimate authority.
I don't disagree with that.
Like,
Certainly.
nature or nature's God. Take your pick. Like, if you follow things from first principles, you will get to the same place. There's only one way that we stop stabbing each other.
I'm not necessarily trying to like do a session of apologetics here. I'm not trying to convince anybody.
I'm
really
just telling you that's
in.
my preference. I like to be able to see it
Yeah,
from both
gotcha.
angles because I think that being able to see it from both sides gives you a depth that you can't get any other way.
I don't understand. I mean, so I have a pretty good imagination. That's to say, I'm a creative. I can think of things. I can, make things out of different stuff. Right? I can paint. I can paper mache. I can play a guitar. I can, there's a lot of like different creative things I can do. And some of them I do better than others, of course. But I can't imagine having less of an imagination that I have, and I'm sure that I have more of an imagination than many people. And so I struggle with that because it takes a lot for me to, creative thinking and following, thought processes to arrive at conclusions. And so I can't even fathom how much it must take somebody without the ability to imagine what it's like in somebody else's shoes to like finally arrive at that same conclusion. There's got to be a time delay there somewhere, somehow, in some way.
Well, and it's
what
funny
conclusion
because
are you talking about?
the time delay is apparent on the other side to each side. So like, well, I just say soul and you get it.
Right.
Or you can talk about, well, you see, since we're having a conversation, then I have to be responsible for what I say. And that means that I have philosophical agency. And you have to go like through this entire massive history of thinking before we got to the idea of philosophical agency and who is and isn't allowed to make contracts.
Right.
Or I can just say, I have a soul.
Takes a lot of imagination just to get there. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I'm trying to approach this from a diplomatic kind of way.
Well, be direct.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Spit it out, man.
I will be.
It's uncensored, for fuck's sakes.
Seriously.
The concept of religion outside of any specific doctrine or dogma, rather, in the state, as it were, it cannot be too literal, and that's the problem that we saw with court cases, that they are like you were saying before, is that they put it in the hands of 12 people, or how many? That's how many people on a jury, right?
That's how many, yeah, 12.
They were really appealing to emotion and the emotional response, and I think I haven't read any of the transcripts, but I'm assuming that they were trying to approach it from a logical, legal perspective, and they failed to move the jury emotionally, which is really all that matters when it comes to the jury, because they're not subject matter experts. They're not computer science degree holders, I imagine, and they have no concept of what Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is. So the only prospect that I think Ian's case really had was to move them emotionally, and I think maybe they failed to do that.
Well, and here's the thing.
Wait,
the question is,
point.
do you bring out the cruelty or the mercy?
Hold on, let him finish his point. Go ahead.
My point is that they didn't find the definition provided for the church, the definition of a church provided in this context did not fit, and therefore they thought that Ian and the free, the
Shire Free Church.
Shire Free Church. Thank you. is a legitimate entity, and that's why I think they found him guilty on all 8 counts, because they thought he was a fraud. And I don't think he's a fraud. I think it's a legitimate church in the context of
If you know
legal
a better way to worship freedom, I would love to hear it.
Yeah. Seriously, it's ridiculous. I thought
I believe that human beings can make choices, and not only is that true, but it is good.
Yeah.
Like the nature
Absolutely.
of goodness can be found in human beings making choices. So I feel obligated to do everything in my power to cultivate human beings making choices.
I'm trying. Okay, so I'm trying to elucidate on some very subtle frustration that I have.
Well, I hear you. I want to say that
religion.
If they would have looked at the evidence again, which I don't believe they did, even though the judge instructed them to do so, if they'd have looked, they would have seen that
they already made up their minds.
Well, yeah, obviously. But if they would have reviewed the evidence, they would have at least seen that the church was actually
and
founded,
the heart of the 12 was hardened.
The church was actually founded before the crypto thing ever was.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was doing the crypto thing and thought, oh, I'll form a church now to avoid the tax. No, that's not true. And they gave that no thought at all because, well, they didn't review the evidence again, even though it was right there in front of them. Right.
This prospect of formulation of a church outside of cultural evolution is an anathema to them. And I imagine that they find it frustrating and insulting. And that's probably why it stirred them emotionally negative towards the defendant. And it is expected, I think. I haven't read the transcripts, but yeah. I imagine it went more towards, well, Ian didn't have to pay taxes because church was defined and blah blah blah, but they didn't care because the church wasn't legitimate in their view. And that I find frustrating because, like, who the fuck defines a fucking church, man?
Right.
We do.
Yeah, the people,
the believers.
Yeah, the congregation defines the church.
They define who they treat as a church.
Well, we saw like that. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but this is the heartbreaking thing is that in the hands of a novice, they'll just go with their gut feeling, and
it turns out your gut feeling is candy every day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hedonism for sure.
I would have thought that
it will make me feel better to hurt you.
I would have thought, at least in the supposedly live free or die state, right? That's their state motto. I would have just thought that they would have taken the time to, okay, we've made up our mind, but you know what? In the interests of supposed justice, right, let's just take a look at the evidence one more time, right, as they were instructed to do. They didn't do that. And to me, that's vindictive. That's worse than just like finding him guilty on all counts. That's vindictive. They were like, fuck this guy specifically.
Peakless nailed it earlier when he was making this comment, and I think you made a point very eloquent that, like, it's hard for me to make this point oftentimes, but if I'll try to replicate it, it is that the victims of they're victims of this abuse, and there's the dark side of that victimhood, and they'll turn around and I'm sorry, I'm terrible. I don't know.
I got it. Hurt people hurt people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Abuse begets abuse.
Not mine. I think I heard that one from Jimmy Dore. Credit where it's due.
It's been around.
It's so obviously that's it.
Those people who have been hurt will turn around and hurt others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts to me when people are like, oh, these rich people aren't paying enough taxes because they get hurt. It's like, nobody should be taxed. Nobody
Right, yeah.
should be subjugated to this kind of abuse. And it's like, well,
No one
I'm
should
being
be a
abused,
slave.
so
That's really it.
like, yeah, and so like, let's make everybody a slave. If I'm a slave a little bit, let's make everybody, and you make more, so you should be more of a slave. It's all envy, it's all jealousy,
Well,
and
and
sucks.
it's wild because until you see it, you're like, well, that's hyperbole. How dare you call me a slave for paying taxes? It's like, that's when they tell you what to do and don't pay you, that's called being a slave.
What I
Exactly.
yeah, what I was just thinking about was I don't even know how to put it. Having the church be a church, the definition of a church be in the hands of 12 fucking people. Like, I mean, the system's. I think that after seeing what I've seen, knowing the outcome, right? Total hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it probably would have been better off arguing for anarchism or abolishing of the state based on things like this caller's talking about, the fact that it is a system of abuse, and proving that, right? I think trying to educate the 12 people on how does a guy get to this point would have fared just as well as the defense that they actually put on. That's not saying I think it would have been better, but I think, like, instead of making a case for, like, answering, oh, why this charge, that charge, just answer the question of how we got here to this moment in time would have had a better effect on the jury than knowing what I know now, right? There's no way to know that in advance, right? Yeah. But
I think it's too early. I think in the Stefan Molyneux kind of way, where like I'm not sure if you guys are like familiar with this.
I am.
Like the concept of the like, well, how are we going? Who's going to pick the cotton? Well, we're going to have these big metal machines that
right. What was his?
feed themselves on. Go ahead.
I think it was giant metal machines that fuel themselves on crushed dinosaur juice.
Yes, something along those
lines. I'm paraphrasing probably, but
it's like
and it's like you're not going to
just imagine for one hot second, a time traveler from this day and age goes back 200 years. And they're like, oh, I see you've got a cotton shirt on there. Who picked it? Well, no one picked it. No, we burn a thing, and burning the thing makes the cotton sort of pick itself.
Yeah.
You're insane. Put this one in a loony bin.
It's unimaginable. And where we, like, people like us who understand what cryptocurrency means and understand the nature of the state, you can't, I'm a convert, right? Like, I grew up a Christian conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I was a neocon. I went to war, and I supported the war. And, I remember my mind state at that point, and it took time, and it was a process of being open-minded. And I've always had this process of open-mindedness.
Yeah.
But even in that state, I was. I know borders are kind of disputed. It's really murky right now. But I was an ardent closed border person, and now I'm like, what the fuck is a border?
Right. Yeah.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah. If you define it, it reveals itself.
Well, and so this is one of the example. This is one of the things that I think is really. Can I just I really want to. Okay, the whole borders thing. Like, what we are trying to figure out right now is which system of borders are we using? Are we using the system where I altered nature and then it became mine? Or are we using the system where I said it was mine and shot people who disagreed with me?
Frank?
I guess. I don't know. I think that this is. I've heard your arguments, Peakless, and I think they're sound.
Now, you can
and-
do a closed borders society that way. It's called build a fence and don't give people permission to climb over it.
The subtlety or the nuance is that we don't live in, or we live in a system that's occupied by the state, and there's what do you call it? Welfare systems in place and all that stuff, and there's like a practical approach and blah 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 blah. That's not really my point. My point was, right now, I have a completely different mindset than I did 15 years ago.
You've grown.
I mean, like, I try to, and the thing is that most people don't have that drive in them.
Okay. So you're hold on. So you're a Molyneux fan. One of the things that he brilliantly pointed out about the nature of negotiation is that you don't just determine where you stand, you determine what you want to get out of it. And then when I know what you want to get out of it and you know what I want to get out of it, we can figure out, okay, what is the most efficient way that all of the things that we want, we get. Okay, well, what do you want out of closed borders? Oh, well, I want to be safe in my home.
Monopoly.
I want a certain amount of predictability in my universe. You know, I want things to make sense, basically.
That only makes sense contextually when it comes to your own domain, like whatever it is in scope for your ownership. And that makes sense for a home, it makes sense for a property, but it doesn't make sense when it comes to a so-called nation or a region. I would rather say region. But really, again, I don't want to be too pedantic on this. I'm using that as an example.
So one thing I wanted to touch back on, though, is just real quick. We have a new means of acquiring consensus.
And that, are you talking about the internet, or?
I mean, I hate to be a broken record, but Bitcoin fixes this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, we have a decentralized consensus. Like, that's something that human beings have never figured out before.
Right, yeah. All this hubbub on the left and the right, both about voter fraud and voted blah, blah, blah. I mean, the technology exists where you can one-for-one vote, doesn't matter where you are, all verified, all that kind of shit. What's the Dancing with the Stars or whatever? Like, they figured that shit out a long fucking time ago. But for whatever reason, people are like, well, of course there's voter fraud. And they can't have voter fraud if they use a system that is trustless.
We have
but you got to understand the nature of the bureaucracy.
Record.
It moves slowly, and it's reluctant to change, right?
And that's why it's going to go the way of the dinosaurs. It acts like a dinosaur. It will go that way. No, that's not a hope. Like,
no, you're right.
It will cease to be. Now, how it ceased to be is kind of up to us. But
no, I think Dave Smith made this point a long time ago, that government will become superfluous and will phase itself out, and that's really my white pill.
Yeah, I have a white pill as well, and I think that if the technology is deployed properly, it will just sort of chip away at the state, taking on the supposed products and services that the state provides, but doing it better, at less expense, and also in a transparent way. Because all of the government services that, people who agree that government services are necessary, right, does also include energy. Like, I think it's necessary to have sewer, right, in a large populated area, right? I disagree on how we pay for that as a region, if you will. I
want there to be ways to get to places, and I want to feed the poor. I disagree on how we do it.
But the systems are necessary to maintain life in the lifestyle that it has been in a given region. So but you can do that in a voluntary way. You don't have to do it through the forced coercion of an institution known as government. And that's what I have a hard time getting people to imagine, right? That's my white pill, though. If I can get them to imagine that this particular product and service can be provided voluntarily without any force or coercion and at a lesser price than you're currently paying, nobody believes me.
Right. I'm sorry. I have to break so prior, like the reason really I was calling was kind of addressing the concern that I think Peakless, you were really hammering on, was you were fearful of people, religious people, when it came to the state defining what a church is, right? So
yeah.
I find it very frustrating because I find a very unholy marriage between church and state, regardless of the terminology that we throw around, the separation of church and state, which is not bound by the Constitution, by the way. It was a phrase used by, I think, in the Federalist Papers.
Sure.
But it really is, it's not constitutional to divide church and state. The church, as I've been exposed to it, as much as it breaks my heart, is very much sucking the tit of the state these days. The church I was recently trying to attend, they have the American flag and the Christian flag both displayed at the front of the pulpit, and they have active duty police officers in uniform patrolling the halls. And I think this is a reactionary effort because there was a church shooting or whatever. And I'm like, okay, maybe just have your parishioners just open carry. Like, you don't need it. It fucking bothers me, man. It really fucks with my head. But more than that is that they display the legitimacy or their support of the legitimacy of the state in open fucking air, and it's crazy to me. So these people are just as religiously dedicated to the state as they are to the Christian God, and I think that that's a mistake. And I just wanted to hammer that home.
It's
not all
point.
of us.
Did you know that there are churches right now that have an American flag draped over the altar?
Yeah, man, it's fucking
that
nuts.
blew my fucking mind.
Well, and like the explanation, of course, is that the state is a religion.
Yes, it is an idol that they worship in open air.
Yes.
And I mean, like, maybe you guys aren't Christians, but like, as a Christian, I find that incredible, not just offensive, but an affront to the very thing that you that they believe.
Right? Yeah.
I'm
What's this
sad
about?
to hear that you don't think I'm Christian.
What's that about worshiping false idols and all that? Right? You know. Let's see. How many false idols are there in government? There's, well, of course, the guy who sits in the chair. Right? There's the chair itself. There's the monetary bit. There's the military bit. Right? You control who lives and who dies.
Yeah.
If you have the largest military that's ever existed on planet Earth, you pretty much got the keys there, you know? So which of these idols are false in the eyes of Christianity?
All of them.
Right? But I mean, I wasn't necessarily asking you. I was asking listeners.
It was rhetorical.
It was kind of rhetorical.
It comes down to one thing. Which would you like to bring to pass? That's what you will set your gaze on. And if you get distracted, you might end up setting your gaze on bullshit.
I'm sorry, I don't own any gays.
And if you keep staring at bullshit, you're going to make bullshit happen.
That was a horrible joke.
But
are you guys familiar with the Bundy Ranch situation?
oh yeah.
Situation is right.
The situation, yeah. And the thing that happened in Oregon, I don't know what the colloquial name is for that, but what followed the Bundy Ranch thing was that they occupied a Bureau of Land Management building in Oregon.
The original BLM.
Hey.
Original BLM, yeah. I don't want to say BLM, but
I appreciate the absence of acronym. Thank you.
Bureau of Land Management. Yes, continue.
Yeah. So then the guy. They tried to resist, like the Bundy Ranch success, and it was a success, and I'm happy it was a success. But these guys, I think, bit off more that they can chew. And I was following it pretty close, and I was supporting them at the time, but I was a bit nervous about it because in some ways it violated the NAP. But what ended up happening
Tricky
is
question. Because
they caught
the government's property is illegitimate, and that makes it a really tricky situation.
Yeah.
Right, but how people interpret it, and that's really the point.
Exactly, yeah.
How people interpret it is how people interpret the legitimacy of the action. Really, it's a numbers game, and well, they didn't have any support really, other than their in-home internal support. Externally, the feds murdered this guy on the way to go in a constitutional way convene with the sheriff, and it was a tragedy. But it's kind of like, from a pragmatic perspective, it was bonkers because these people did not have a social support to provide reluctance on the feds enough to stop shooting this guy.
Supreme executive power comes from a mandate from the masses.
Right.
They didn't have a mandate from the masses to shoot that guy.
I bring this up to say I applaud Ian in his efforts. I think that he is a fucking awesome, liberty-minded advocate to the hilt.
Yeah.
And 100% support. The problem is that us people who support Ian are kind of on the outs with the rest of society. When they chose that,
I think that's less true than you imagine.
Well,
I don't know how you measure that.
I don't know. But I'm just speaking from actual occurrence that the jury wasn't really his peers, as I think you guys mentioned before.
No way.
Did you say that they specifically selected the jury that did not own Bitcoin?
Correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, which is the opposite of what you would think they would do. They're like, oh, this guy's into Bitcoin. Let's get a jury that's knowledgeable about Bitcoin.
Does everyone on the jury that is trying a potential thief know what thievery is? Right. Okay. Does everyone on the jury who is trying, do you know what you're trying? Oh, well, off the jury then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that may be a bad example. I think it's more technical in nature, right? It's not like everybody knows what a thief is, and a thief is bad. What we're really trying to talk about here is,
I think that is wildly optimistic.
Technical in nature, right? And it was beyond the scope of any understanding of most people, let alone a selected jury that doesn't own Bitcoin, and that just shows how biased. And I can imagine Ian's lawyer had a really hard time, but that being an actual fact of the jury selection is it's bonkers to me. Like, you couldn't that is as bad as a black
this
guy
potential accused crime happened in a field. Does anyone here know what a field is? You are disqualified from judging this matter.
Right, yeah.
I think it's the same as selecting an all-white jury against a black man in the South. I can't see it any other way.
It's worse, actually, because even the whites and the blacks were probably Christian. Like, they probably had some fucking overlap of belief system.
The other thing that bothers me about this whole thing is that I know for a fact that there are people celebrating. They're celebrating a man being convicted on 8 counts by a jury that he faces up to 70 years. Because people are vindictive.
No. They're vindictive about what? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I mean, just the prosecution alone, right? They're vindictive because, they're competitive. They want to win. They want to put bad guys away.
That's true.
They're fucking convinced that Ian's a bad guy.
Yeah, like prima facie for sure.
The
But
FBI,
there's
Phil
something
Cristiano,
deeper here.
Georgina McDonald, I believe is her name. I don't remember.
Yeah, but they got the jury on board with this, right? The jury's vindictive as well, because like
that's the most
counts,
crazy part to me is how, like, if this decision was really made by the jury was just like, we're gonna kick this motherfucker in the nuts. It wasn't just we're going to find him guilty. They found him guilty of all counts after 5 fucking hours.
Yeah, man, it's bizarre. Well, no, it's not bizarre. I think it is expected. I think that's my point.
It is a state of the non-player character of the average person that exists in New Hampshire. It is definitely a statement that says what kind of people the average person is in the state of New Hampshire.
It's not average. I don't know if it's average.
Well,
because there's a selection process, and they really cherry pick like that fact that like nobody's going to be on this jury that owns Bitcoin. Well, you're selecting a group of people who are completely ignorant of what that is.
Yeah, but even with that, how about the live free or die portion?
That is the difference between what they sell and what they deliver. Now, what they sell us is good. Okay, if you want to take a fucking survey, there are rules that you follow to get a survey that doesn't suck. Okay, a random selection. Okay. That's what they sold us.
That's not what we got. No, that's not what anybody ever gets. And in fact, as
well, they want an impartial jury, right?
You can't get that.
It seems that selecting on the basis of not owning Bitcoin does not provide you an impartial jury.
Yeah, well,
I think that's obvious, right?
Sure. But it is a statement that is reflective of society today. Like, as a self-proclaimed philosophical anarchist, I believe that the abolition of the institution known as the state needs to go away because it is slavery. It's just slavery light. And so as an anarchist, if I needed any more convincing that the system is stacked against you and full of things that need to be tossed out, it is an unfair and archaic, barbaric thing that not only sucks up your time but sucks up your life as well at its desire, that it needs to go away. I see, like, there was no inkling of justice in this case. There was no, like, well, maybe they thought about it for a while. There was nothing. It was just straight, here you go, eject, you're out.
And that's why I brought up that case with Oregon, is that I think it may be too early. There's no social support for any kind of resistance in this fashion.
Okay, hold on. So to touch back on that, because I had something I really, really wanted to say about that. Sure. So, like, when I find out that someone drove a tank through my friend's house, I want to eliminate them. Now, I have to realize that what I want to eliminate isn't the human being. It's the position.
Right.
I want to eliminate every Fed on Earth. And I mean that because I want your office to cease to be.
Right.
There will no longer be a violence provider.
Alternatively, is that elimination of yourself from that situation, I think, is people like us, is the best prospect that we have. And I hate it because I keep hearing people, if you want more liberty, you need to have more resources, like earn more money or whatever. Like the Cyprian.
Play this crooked game and play it better.
Yeah.
Well, wait, but you actually make the game twice as hard every time I win. Yes.
I have very little patience for it, but it seems to be the life or the reality that we are living in. And it's
or
a
we
harsh
play
reality.
A different game. And it sucks. It sucks to be the first over the wall. Like, that's what this is. If you are the first to break through a defense, you are going to get targeted.
Yeah.
That is a fucking 100% what
We
I'm
are
trying
a
to get
flood.
at. Yes.
And like the system, statism, if you will, is it's beginning to feel the effects of things like cryptocurrency, and it knows that it is a threat to its very existence, and so it is not going to go quietly.
No.
The expectation that, I mean, this can end peacefully, of course, but the organization, the institution known as the state, or government, as the world likes to call it, as it's dying, it's gonna buck a few times.
This
it's gonna,
is the kicking and screaming as we drag the banksters into literal oblivion.
It's the
because
beginning.
there will not be a banker in the world we're making.
It's the beginning of the bucking. It's just the beginning. That's all I'm saying. I don't think that this is going to be the last of this kind of a thing.
No,
we're going to continue to see more. We're going to see more people get fucking railroaded, lives fucking destroyed. And I'm sad to say, but I think the state will resort to violence to get its way as it, enters sort of the throes of its death.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to play the role of Mark here, but I think that the game, what he said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and I found that really offensive and insensitive. But I think there is a hint of truth there, that there is a more subtle approach that I think needs to be taken, in my opinion, unsolicited, of course, that the nature of cryptocurrency in Bitcoin being pseudo-anonymous and Monero being more anonymous is really the approach. I think that not having such a public-facing affront to the government is really the game that should be played, and it should be played in the shadows. But that's not really what Free Talk Live or the Shire Free Church is about. I understand that. And really, I love it. I love that it exists because it is it's a manifestation of what we believe in a way that that challenges the legitimacy of the state, which it doesn't have any.
You said play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
No, I didn't say that.
No. You repeated Mark's saying that.
Yeah, he was paraphrasing
and,
Mark.
Okay, we've established that the court is a stupid game. And basically the stupid prize that we won is they have admitted that we are the author of money.
That's a good point.
That is part of the permanent record that they keep, is that we are the author of money.
Right, because if...
What are we going to do with that? What can we do with that?
Well...
create value and share it in the world.
And just continue doing what we've been doing.
I mean, like,
that is to advocate for it.
The technology allows for the literal creation of community. So if I want to make a fork off of Bitcoin that I just, okay, we've established this all happened, but we're going to have this thing over here, and here's the rules of our game. And this village operates by these rules. And so this village, it's not that we don't own Bitcoin, but we mostly, we use this over here. And these are our rules. And everyone has perfect, absolute, eternal access to this is the rule of our currency set. And since that's the rule of our currency set, that's the rule of our civilization.
I'm sorry.
It's all right, Frank.
I'm really trying to see what you're saying here. I don't see how we're getting there with this because it seems like the opposite.
So for example, say Kitson-Nevitz decided to use Bitcoin Cash. Now that puts them into a very specific tribe that extremely values the quick exchange of that currency at low cost, that values it over the anal retentive record keeping. Like they've created a hard-coded people that there will be a permanent record of. And that's just the beginning.
Yeah, but the state is saying like you can't operate in the way that you've been operating.
Well, they may as well
Simply put.
illegalize cellular respiration.
Yeah, but they're not, because the context is different. In their mind, the context is different, rather. So
Yeah, they
given
think
the
that
context,
they think they can literally legislate a technology out of existence, and there isn't actually
yes,
a way of doing that.
right, and there is going to be bloodshed in the inconsolable, irreconcilable differences between what their understanding of reality is and the actual reality, is how I understand it.
They are going to punish
And
us
yeah,
until
that's
we
what I'm
own
saying.
them. And I mean, like, literally until we give them their jobs and are paying their salary to be peaceful.
I think, I mean, if I'm going to fast forward, it really is going to, like, what we're really gunning for here is the complete collapse of the U.S. Federal Reserve note.
I know. I
Yeah.
certainly would
Right.
like to see that. Hey, Frank, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you, and
Thanks,
feel
guys.
free to call again, man. Let's move on, and let's go to, we've got Rob in Vermont. Rob, you're on Beard Talk Live.
Hey,
Hey, Rob.
Merry Christmas, gentlemen, for, what it is.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah,
Mary isn't really the way I'm feeling these days.
no. So what is it? I kind of fell asleep towards the end of Free Talk Live, and then I woke up at about, 12:30, and I realized, oh, fuck, I'm missing Beer Talk Live.
Nice, man. I mean, not nice that, like, you felt, but, like, thanks for, waking up and wanting to tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got a few things to say, and I mean, my fucking heart just aches right now,
Yeah.
and it has been
I hear
for about what the jury convicting Ian, and I don't really know, try to understand a lot about how all of this shit happened or anything, because it wasn't really any of my business, but still, I just don't see where he did anything wrong at all. I've known
I
Ian.
just don't see where anyone was harmed.
Yeah, they even
No.
admitted that nobody was harmed. They admitted that there weren't any victims, including the banks, right?
Right.
The real victims were the victims of the scammers.
Right.
They weren't victims of Ian Freeman providing a good or service at a reasonable rate, right?
Right. I mean, I have known Ian for, since, like 2006, 2007, and Ian is just, he's a wonderful human being, him and Mark, I mean, I started listening to the show back then, and, my head was in a real strange place at that time, as you guys know.
Yeah.
With my story. And, in their own inevitable way, just by me listening to them on Free Talk Live, it really opens my head up into, what libertarianism is, how different that it is from the left side and the right side.
Right.
It just kind of gave me, like this, a light at the end of the tunnel that, hey, there's something down here that you've never seen before, and you might like this.
Yeah.
It's a little odd, a little fucking crazy, it can be, but it's something that's different that you ain't seen.
Well, what it is consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is something different that you've never seen.
Well, okay.
You've
Well,
been paying attention to the left and the right, which are completely inconsistent all of the time.
I met Peakless Mountaineer a few years back. I didn't know who he was, but all I knew was that he was coming up this way, intending to go to New Hampshire. But he didn't have a place to go. I didn't know who the hell he was.
Yeah.
I was just told by Ian that hey, this, good guy's cut, it's a good guy. Don't know a whole lot about him, but he needs a place to stay for a while. I said, well, have him come here. And he did, and he's like this wonderful, warm giant. 'Cause he's really,
ho, ho, green giant.
And
Wait, wrong ho, ho, ho. It's Christmas. Sorry, my bad.
It was wonderful having him here, and
Hey, it was
he's
wonderful being
you're
there,
such
man.
you bring a lot to these shows because you really do, and you're very, very intelligent, and you bring a good force up into this area here. And I wish that we could get more open-minded people like this. And like I said, since I've been listening to this show and listening to Mark and Ian, I've been hooked.
Well, I'm
But
glad you like it.
I do want to
'Cause
make
it's
a comment on, because I went over there.
Hard enough to tell the truth and make it go down with a spoonful of sugar.
Go ahead, Red.
I went over to, one day to go over and see, this, trial. And I got there when they had, they were selectively picking the jury. People came in, I don't know, what was it, 100 or so people, I can't remember, that they had to pick through. And I sat in the back of this, what looked like to me this elaborate church.
Yep.
And I watched, into, the people going, in, that were, may or may not have been picked for jury.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could just see that, all of those jury members, they were all no-nonsense people from what I saw, and
They were very serious about their duty.
They were,
Yeah.
And
Because they're in church.
Well, I mean, they were also, in my opinion, they're all people that have been conditioned, because they're, part of, what I call an evil empire.
Yeah.
And there is an evil empire in New Hampshire. There's one in Vermont. There's evil empires throughout this whole country.
You know what just dawned on me?
Pardon me?
You know what just dawned on me? Is how similar the setup of a court is to a funeral.
Ooh.
Because if you're not one of those everyday or every Sunday kind of Christians, you don't really see the inside of the church much, but you see it at Easter and Christmas, and you sure do see it at a funeral. The pews. Oh, and fun fact, that particular court had a very subtle cross in the wall. And the very simple insignia of the back of the dollar bill, the phoenix. Oh, sorry, not the phoenix. The eagle. It was the eagle. Yeah, that's what the U.S. is. It's the eagle. And don't you dare think about that capstoneless pyramid. Yeah, no, it's.
They had like before you get into the doors of each of the different courtrooms, they have these little areas where they have, like, I don't know if they're actual photos or sketches or sometimes both. But it'll be a picture of either a judge that has been through there, or they had one where it had some quote about basically live free or die, right? Right on it.
Wow.
Right. But while you're in there and you're like, whoa, that's weird that they would have that
That's
here.
disgusting.
And yeah, I'm paraphrasing it. It had some other quote that made you feel like, oh, this guy was all about freedom, right? A Liberty quote.
We will display
kind of
our General Stark.
Yeah.
See, we're all about freedom here where we put chains on you.
And the whole bit with the judge, just even the word judge, right? That guy is there to do that to you. You are there to be judged by that guy, right? Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you on that day. Only matters what that guy thinks of you that day. He's going to judge you on that day.
He will determine whether you seek trial by your peers that he will make sure are selected correctly.
Ridiculous. Who the fuck is this guy to judge me?
Seriously.
Fuck you. You've never walked a mile in my fucking shoes.
I don't know you from Adam.
You know?
I literally have no idea who the fuck you are to judge my life, to judge my friends, to judge our world. But okay, there is a judgment that every human being can render.
But he
if
was
you go
appointed.
back to first principles.
He was appointed by the holiest seat in all of the land, the office of the President of the United States of America. The President of the United States of America appointed him judge over all men.
Our supreme
sort of
master ruler falls upstairs.
I guess which supreme master appointed the judge in Ian's case, Rob? Do you know?
Say that question again, please.
What president appointed the judge Joe LaPlante in Ian's trial?
Geez, I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
Rhymes with gush.
Oh, jeez.
J.W. Bush.
Turns out this is just part of the war of terror.
Wouldn't be prudent.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I know you guys gonna want to go for a break here, but
we already had our break, so.
Oh, okay. So we can keep going then.
We can keep going. What else is on your mind?
Oh, I'll try to hold up before I sink and go under.
I'll let you know when it's time for you to be done. So don't worry.
Okay, great.
I'll be the judge. Oh wait, that makes me sound horrible now. I'm not wearing a robe though, and you're not in court, so I think it's a different application.
It is. It is a different application. Yeah, I like I said, I'm really kind of lost for words, in this whole trial thing, and Sissy put on a phenomenal, job. He did fantastic, and he's, you could just being in the presence of a guy like him is like you can just feel the force within him. He's like a Jedi.
I don't know about that because he certainly wasn't able to convince them that these were not the droids he was looking for.
Yeah, I know, but like I said, you could just see the jury, and they were just no-nonsense people, they didn't have any fucking idea what cryptocurrency was or how to try to understand any of that. So rather than try to sift it out, fuck it, we'll just make them guilty.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Like, it's disrespectful to themselves, I think.
It is.
As people, to have come to the conclusion they did as quickly as they did.
Look what the fuck they did to me.
Well,
they
okay.
don't give a shit.
Right, and so let me just double down on this. I again believe that there is no such thing as justice in the statist system known as the government of the United States of America. I also don't believe it exists in any other statist organization. So the whole concept of government, I think, is antique, barbaric, and detrimental to mankind, and represents a form of slavery, and thus should be abolished.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it really is very simple. Human beings on planet Earth will do one of two things. We will decide that we are done solving our problems by clubbing each other over the head, or we'll just kill everyone.
Yeah,
now, if we choose to stop clubbing each other over the head, my God, the wonders that we are about to experience.
Yeah.
I mean, think for just a moment. We have very specifically had an absolute throttle on how we get around.
No.
Like, the world as it is run by oil.
Yep.
And oil will have you absolutely not allowed to try any other form of A, energy,
right,
B, conveyance, or C, health product. Now, think for a second what marvels exist in the universe that we are about to discover because, looks like you can just build an ion engine and see if it works.
Yeah, we're actually due for probably several technological breakthroughs in the next 10 years. Several that are probably huge. Maybe not as huge as cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is pretty fucking huge. It's going to take it's going to take something else to top that, but we'll see. Technology is supposed to begin moving at a faster clip because of the technology that preceded it, right? Usually technology begets better, faster, more efficient technology in the future. And so the pace of human innovation should take it should be on an up ramp here right quick, right? So hopefully we could stop fucking killing each other long enough for us to really invent some kick-ass shit.
Right?
You know?
Like we basically solved world hunger. I mean that just happened. Yeah. In between us finding new and innovative ways to murder each other, we actually solved the problem of hunger.
Yeah, it's
except for where we're murdering each other for solving it, of course.
Right.
There is always that.
Yeah, it's just a distribution problem. There's already enough food produced to feed every human being on planet Earth and then some. So how do we get it to them the most efficient way? Of course, the market, right? However, some people don't want that. You don't want to get food to every human being on planet Earth in the most efficient way, particularly using the market. They want to control it. They want to control how much food their geographic area gets.
You
what
can't
kind of
feed
food?
people over here unless
Or I'm
you
mad
give
at
me
you.
some of your money.
I'm mad at you, so therefore we're not going to accept the ability to trade with your geographic area. Right? Like, come on, man. Get the fuck out of the way and let humans be humans. I'm talking to the government.
It is mind-boggling to see them swallow a poison pill in the hopes that it will harm who they're looking at. Because that's what destroying trade is. Like, you literally rely on this to exist. You can choke it off, but you're insane to do so.
Hey, Rob, I'm curious. So there were 8 counts. What did you expect? What was your expectation? Did you feel like...
I was hoping that he was going to be, found not guilty on all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking that, what about the motions that Mark Sisti put in?
Yeah.
The judge still has to rule on that.
I don't know. Does he? Like, I don't know how...
They're under consideration.
I don't know how legal land works, right?
Well, I mean, I don't really know myself, but I mean, at this point, who makes the decision on how much time he gets? The jury or the judge?
I have no clue.
Oh, who makes the decision?
On the motions.
So yeah, assuming that there is no successful
he just straight up
appeal,
ignored him.
So there will be attempts to appeal, and if none of them are successful, then it is straight up to the judge how hard to punish an innocent.
Okay, so the judge, let's just say for sake of argument, he could just say, all right, yep, the judge found him, the jury found him guilty, give him 5 years probation. Could he do that?
I don't know. I think there are minimum sentences involved in some of the charges.
There are minimums.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, because he's going to be going to a federal prison. Those are different laws and different rules than state laws.
Yep.
He's probably going to, you probably get better good times than he would in the state prison, probably get a little bit more in the federal. I mean, I don't know. I've never been there, so, but, yeah.
Yeah, there's something fucked up about saying, Mr. Freeman has no attachment to this state. Are you out of your mind? And now that we have proven our case, we are going to forcibly remove him from this state.
Well, I guess what I'm really...
unimaginable fuckers.
I guess what I'm really, really grateful for is that, they didn't get all of the guys. One, person continued on and, wanted to finish this jury, see how it was going to be played out, and he lost. But we didn't lose the other guys, and thank Christ for that.
I am pleased with the number of survivors.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a Pyrrhic victory. Like,
it's so backwards. It's more backwards than I can even fathom. Ian Freeman caught more scammers than the FBI.
yeah,
Ian Freeman returned money to at least one witness's mother who got scammed, and Ian discovered it and went out of his way to work with the son of this lady and get her money back to her. That's more than the FBI did.
wouldn't that be a marvelous way of doing trials? To put the FBI and Ian Freeman both on trial and say, okay, the FBI's job that you are paying them for is to catch scammers like this. Now, one of them caught scammers.
One of these things caught a fucking scammer.
Yeah.
One of these things did not.
And the outcome is, oh, well, I guess I should fire the FBI.
Yeah.
The fucking jury wasn't listening when they said that, about Ian, returning the money and catching the scammers. They didn't hear that part.
Oh, they heard it. They heard it loud and fucking clear. They just didn't give a
They
fuck.
in one fucking ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for a product review on justice, honestly.
Well,
It is.
it's time for a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
You have to open up that fucking broken criminal justice system and point some of these motherfuckers out.
Yeah, it's
Well,
rebuilding
the
year
only-
is even a
the
horrible
the
thing to
only-
say because it should be abolished completely.
Yeah, the only way that we can get around this is through it. And the thing that we get through is creating systems outside of them. Like, justice is a problem.
Yep.
We need to get through that problem, so we need to create our justice systems.
Yeah.
We need to create our money systems.
Yep.
We need to create our defense systems.
Yep.
That's what I will not be here when that goes on. That's going to take decades and decades.
Well, maybe.
It really won't. Like, the technology is already mapped out.
It's probably just going to take a couple of, let's say, gifted whiz kids that are, sort of antisocial, but also get hooked on freedom.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason that the country survived its infancy is because we had a system whereby individuals were responsible. And those responsible individuals would both judge matters and were part of the militia.
Mm.
The militia being the defense of our stuff. I know that's not my farm, but I know it's his farm, so I will defend it.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah, you take care of your neighbors, they take care of you.
Right.
Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Right. Now, I'm not going to put myself out defending your farm. I'm not going to starve myself trying to fight someone stealing your farm, but I'll do what I can.
Right.
It's really that simple.
Rob, what else?
I don't know. I don't really have much more to say other than, if Ian's listening, I'm real sorry, and I'm sorry I couldn't, be there for you. I've had vehicle problems and shit like that, but I just want him to know that I'm really thinking about him and Bonnie and what's happened. But it ain't over with yet.
No, it certainly isn't. Well, hey, Rob, thanks for the call, man. Consider the message relayed. We will make sure that it is heard. Have a great night. I guess I'm done talking about the trial for the moment. It's still on my mind. It's still like I hate that fucking building. I so hate the building. I had to go. I didn't have to. I chose to go in and out of that thing daily for some number of days in a row. I think I missed 3 days of the whole thing, or 2.5 days, I guess, because I was there for a half day. But whatever. I didn't even know if I was going to try to attend, much less try and get to attend most of it. So I'm glad that worked out the way that it did, because, like in a closing episode or closing moments of South Park, I learned something today.
Oh, yeah?
And by today, I mean over the course of this trial. And that is, if anything, my disdain for the institution known as government was reinforced. Absolutely 100% reinforced. Like,
there's an old saying that you can get a jury to indict a ham sandwich. And it turns out they'll happily execute a ham sandwich. Because every trial is really a trial of the government. And people are scared shitless to admit that the government isn't actually helping them.
yeah.
And until they can admit that the biggest bully on the playground isn't actually their friend, then they're not going to start saying, hey, here's the truth about what I'm looking at.
And sadly, it's, people who recognize abuse. It's people who have been abused by the system, mostly who sort of come around to the ideas of freedom, the non-aggression principle, things with even a philosophical concept of like what freedom is. Even just to ask the question, what is freedom and do I have it? Right?
Well,
ask those questions to yourself, listeners.
You brought up
what is freedom and do I have it?
The absurdity of a 5-hour contemplation. And it's like, holy shit, do you have any fucking clue what you're grappling with? Like, the first thing you should establish is, okay, what's real here? Okay, what's real? What's true? What are we doing?
Well, start with definitions, right?
That's kind of not a simple matter.
Right.
You actually have to start from first principles and determine.
I assure
what
you, they have
just
no idea.
happened.
They have no idea what first principles are.
Yeah.
Or principles at all. They probably don't even know. They probably think principal is like the leader of the school. They have the wrong principle. They spell it wrong.
But it's just so much easier to trust the establishment to be perfect.
Yeah. Well, you know what? For this holiday, you know what I want? I want all of the appeals to be successful. I want more people to begin to use cryptocurrency. I want more people to begin to use gold backs, gold and silver. Just have a little, because it's up to all of us to encourage others to be independent. And until you start thinking independently and working in an independent way, you are not going to gain independence. A lot of people, I'm sure, think, I'm already independent. I again ask you, what is freedom and do you have it?
Well, hey, Santa Claus, here's my one wish. I just want to be sure that no one's going to drop a nuke on anyone. That's it. That's all.
A good one.
I want everyone on Earth to feel in the very core of them that we are certain that we don't want to eradicate our species.
That would be nice. With that, we are at the end of episode 19. Holy shit. I think it's the first time I said that all evening. This has been episode 19. It is now Christmas Day.
Yep.
So Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, Festivus for the rest of us, whatever the fuck it is. I hope that your day...
Solstice and all of that.
Yeah, your winter whatever the fuck. I hope you got some time off work at least. Hope you get to do something fun, eat some food, celebrate your life a little bit.
Remember, we are halfway through the dark. And once you're halfway in the forest, you're also halfway out.
I'm going to take us out with one of my favorite bands ever, Gwar, Gwar. This song was actually put on one of those square records that you could get like off the back of a cereal box way back in the day, before CDs, before cassettes, that kind of a thing. It was a fan club special, so they just sent this square, flimsy ass record out that you could put on a turntable. This song is one of my favorite holiday songs. It's called Stripper Christmas Summer Weekend. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Beard Talk Live. Peace.
Peace.